Hello, I'm Davina, and hello to all of you bold, beautiful, brilliant, and highly evolving souls. Today, I would like to talk about boundaries in the workplace. And I was inspired to do this video by my, I guess, I don't know what you call it, friend, colleague in YouTube world, highly sensitive healer. And he also has his own channel where he talks about his experience and wisdom and insights also on the journey of healing from C-PTSD and narcissistic abuse. So again, his channel is highly sensitive healer, and I'll put the link down to his channel. And the topic that he did was boundaries in the workplace. And yeah, it was really inspiring for me to hear the boundary that he had set. And I thought, wow, that's bold, you know. Um, and it takes, yeah, boldness to set a boundary in the workplace. Um, so I wanted to talk about this. This has been something that has been very extremely challenging for me over the course of the years as a nanny, the last, I guess, 6 or 7 years here. So, yeah, I'll just share with you some of the experience and insight that I've had. The first thing I think I've just come to realize is that the employer or the company or whoever you work for um, becomes like a, becomes very much like our childhood where we have, this sort of parent figure. The company becomes this parent figure who is providing for you, who is, giving you a paycheck, giving you money that pays for your rent and your bills and your food, right? Which is not unlike the situation as a child where our parents are the providers and they provide us with the roof over our head and our food and everything. So, obviously we depend on that, employer to pay us so that we can survive, right? So it is that similar thing as in your childhood where we depend on some sort of income to survive in the world, really. Otherwise, we're going to be, homeless or whatever. So it can bring up a lot of terror to set a boundary in the workplace because we fear that rejection. We fear that, if we get rejected by this employer, we're doomed. We're going to end up on the street. We're going to be broke, we're going to die, it can bring up that survival, extreme, terror. So it's really important to just go gently, really compassionately with this. And just understand that this is kind of why it can be so incredibly difficult. The difference is, of course, that we can change employers, right? Whereas a child, we could not just say, hey, I'd like to have some new parents. Wow, wouldn't have that have been nice, right? Um, but that can also be anyway incredibly difficult to do, to find a new job that's, has a healthier workplace, or something that's more aligned with your values and everything, because it's a pretty crazy world, really. And a lot of workplaces are some level of, dysfunction. They're toxic in some way, unhealthy. I would say probably the majority of them. I mean, I have a very unique kind of workplace, but I've worked in schools too and things like that. And I mean, just in general, expecting people to work, 8-hour days with, or sorry, 8 hours a day, with a half an hour break for lunch, and maybe you get a coffee break or something, it's basically treating humans like kind of robots, whereas, where I see like things is like people working shorter weeks and, really having breaks in your day where you can rest, meditate, go for a walk in nature, like really like replenish yourself. So you're not just like working like nonstop for hours at a time. Even in BC, Canada here, like the labor laws are like, what? Like the employer has to give you a break after 5 hours of work. Like that's a half-hour break after 5 hours, 5 hours, so you could work from like 8 to 1 with no break time, which I think is nuts, really nuts. So also understand that, a lot of workplaces are basically dysfunctional and not really that healthy. Um, yeah, I work, obviously as a nanny, I work in people's homes, which is kind of unique. And so, it might not totally be applicable, but I hope it will still be applicable to your situation. If you have a job and if you're very lucky, you have your own company and you get to work for yourself, yay, this is where I want to be someday, hopefully soon, because I'm really getting tired of dealing with the dysfunction and the people in denial and all the crap. So, yeah, so if you have, yeah, so just, yeah, again, be compassionate about that terror and guilt that's going to be there. You're going to feel guilty for setting boundaries. You're going to feel horribly, horribly scared. Um, and yeah, it takes practice. So if you're in a new job, or even if you're in a current job and you're starting to like feel things out and, just get a sense of like, what the colleagues are like, what your manager or boss is like, and see like how people talk to each other, and just get a sense of the company culture and things like that, and sort of, after a few months, you probably get a sense of, is this safe enough, because anyway, it's going to be, as I said, there's going to be some, I think it is like families, and I've been in so many families and they're all dysfunctional in some way. So I think it's the same with companies. And correct me if I'm wrong. Please comment below if you're working for some wonderful, healthy place. That would be inspiring for me. Um, so is it safe enough? Do I feel safe here? Can I, you know, does the company value your mental health, your well-being, in at least enough? Do they care about you having, breaks and vacation time and all that time and personal days, sick days, all that stuff? Do they seem to want employees to have input? Like what kind of structure is it? So sort of feel things out and figure out if that is a safe enough workplace for you. And sometimes we just have to stick it out, until we can find something else. And that's unfortunately, yeah, the way it is, unless you're rich, and then you, I guess, have more options. But yeah, secondly, sort of notice what kind of things are triggering you, or what kind of boundaries seem to be like coming up for you. And I sometimes just write them down, and it can be really muddled in the beginning. At least for me, it is. I mean, I start a new job and it's just like, there's just so many things happening. And it takes a while to like, it's like, untangling a ball of yarn or something to figure out like what what's going on, what's triggering me, what's most important to me here. Um, and sort of like thinking, okay, what boundaries do I need to set right away that I think will be just easily accepted? And that's kind of where I start. Um, so just like immediately sort of say, okay, like I need this. And if you think it's going to be like, they're going to be like, okay, sure, no problem, just start low risk, start with things that are important for you, that you think will be fairly low risk, that they will just, go along with and agree with. Um, and then, as your time in the company goes on and you become more of a reliable employee and they value you and you develop more relationships, then you might want to, take a little bit more risk. And again, just feeling things out, like really, I think one of the most important things here, I think that's number 4, is like to like use your intuition, really let it guide you as always. But I mean, in this, I think I really let my intuition guide me. And sometimes waiting is wise. Sometimes it's, we get really, at least I get really scared and I want to immediately like pounce on every trigger. And sometimes waiting is wise to figure out like, what exactly am I wanting here? What exactly is this need? And because I know I've set boundaries and then look back and go, oh, actually, I didn't want to set that boundary, or like that actually kind of turned out not the way I wanted it to. So get real clarity on what you're needing and what's most important. And and figure out like, yeah, is this a boundary I can set? And if so, when could I set it? Can I set it now? Do I need to wait maybe a little bit? Do I need to get more clarity on it? Um, and maybe who is the safest person that I could talk to about this? And that can be really important too. Who do I feel safe talking with in this workplace? So figure out those things. And yeah, as I said, start with low risk, move to the higher risk things, because it can really bring up that terror of abandonment. Like, oh my God, what if they abandon me and I'm broke and I go homeless and all that? So um, yeah, and I think really, I mean, what I'm kind of figuring, I don't know. I just think that maybe like we are leaders. We are really leaders here, the highly sensitive people, these evolving souls that we are. We are leaders of positive change in the world. And it's a very difficult place to be. It's very frustrating. It's incredibly maddening to be in this place where you see things that are unhealthy or dysfunctional and everybody else think that's just normal, right? And you're just like, yeah, this is not cool, or this is not right, or and so we have to sort of tread carefully, because if we just leave the job, then nothing is going to change. But at the same, it's a balance, right? You want to, of course, get the job where you feel the safest possible. And then from there, try to make those little changes that you can in that organization, in that system that you're in. Um, yeah, it can be an incredibly frustrating place to be. Um, and yeah, I mean, I've experienced this just more and more, just the deep frustration and I guess grief really too, because it reminds me of my family, of course, and how crazy that was and how dysfunctional that was. And so it brings up a lot of everything, shame and rage and grief. And yeah, so as always, go gently and go slowly, and just have a lot of compassion for yourself. It is not easy to be the one who's awakened or awakening. It's really not an easy place to be, um, when most of the people out there are not. So, and be humble too. I always, try to think of like, okay, and where was I when I was 30? I was a mess. So have that humility with the empowerment sort of in balance. So and speak boundaries always with, of course, vulnerability and respect. And yeah, I hope this brought you anyway some sort of validation, insight. Um, as always, wishing you many, many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Davina at Boldness Blooming.